Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm your host, the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and showing you how to play the game Ethnos, which was published by Simon and Spaghetti Western Games. Now, Ethnos was designed by Paolo Mori with art by John Howe. And I do want to draw attention real quick to the really nice cover art here of a bunch of fantasy armies doing battle. One thing that a lot of people have been complaining about this game online is that the graphic design is subpar. But I, in particular, really like this bit of cover art. But that being said, I do also want to draw attention to the fact that as nice as this cover art is, it gives you a misrepresentation of what the game is about. It shows a big fantasy war going on, and this is not a game that has any fighting or attacking whatsoever. The game is set collecting and area control, completely abstract elements, and they could have really put almost any theme on it. They decided to go with a fantasy world. It's just, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, another fantasy battle game, like we haven't seen a million of those. But I was surprised that the game was very different from what I thought, so I did want to draw attention to that. Now, the game is listed for ages 14 and up. It is for 2 to 6 players, and it is listed as a 45 to 60 minute game. So let's start there. Now, the 14 and up is a bit of an overestimate. You can knock a couple years off that for your average child, and you know what? You can even knock more off that if your child is rather advanced. I would figure an advanced 8-year-old would get this just fine, and a normal 10 to 12-year-old would be doing just fine with this as well. As for the 2 to 6 players, this game does play at 2 to 6 players, but I do want to point something out. To get the full effect of the rules, you need a minimum of 4 players. 4 to 6 players to have full rules. At 3 players, you only play 2 of the 3 ages that you would normally play in a larger player count game. And at 2 players, you only play 2 of the 3 ages, and you use 1 less of the factions. You normally use 6 of the 12 factions in a normal size game, but you only use 5 in a 2-player game. Now, while those games play just fine at those player counts, I did want to point out that they do use alternate rules, and that is something that bothers some people. Now, as for 45 to 60 minutes, that's a good estimate. There is a wide variety of amount of time for this game because there is a large variety of player count, being that it goes from 2 to 6 players. Smaller player counts, of course, play a lot quicker, but generally speaking, this is a fairly quick game. A 6-player game really isn't going to last you longer than an hour, and that is one of the really positive elements of this game, is that you can get it in under an hour. Now, let's have a look at what comes in the box, shall we? The first thing you've got in the box is the rule book. Now, the rule book is very nicely done. It is full color. It has explanations and diagrams. Look at that wonderful diagram for the setup to help you see exactly how it is you set up this game. This is a very well done rule book with no ambiguity, and is exactly what you would expect from a large company like Simon. 2 thumbs up for this rule book. It is exactly what I want. In fact, in addition to having no ambiguity, there is no redundancy as well, and the rulebook will have you up and running in a very short period of time. 1 read through, no having to go back and reread sections, and very little having to look things up. But if you do, they have quick reference on the back that covers many of the things you might feel like you need to look up again. Very well done rulebook. Now, the next component we have is the board, and I need to draw special attention to this because this is the area of graphic design that most people have been complaining about on the internet. Now, the board is set up to be a fairly generic fantasy land, and you can see different nations on the board surrounded by different colored borders, and by each nation they have a set of 3 spaces where you put points tokens for the 3 different ages. In addition, we have a points track that goes around the outside of the board. So the main complaint people have with this is that they feel it is very boring, and it is very subpar in regard to a lot of modern board games. Now, while I do agree that this board is not very exciting, I feel like it maybe doesn't deserve all of the vitriol it's been getting online, and it's been getting quite a bit. It's basic, and yes, it feels a bit outdated. It feels like the kind of board you would have seen on a board game maybe 10, maybe even 15 years ago, and back then we might not have complained about it at all. And now it does feel a bit dated. But is it horrible? No, I mean, it plays just fine. You can fit the pieces in the areas that you need to fit them. It's functional. I do feel like it is a bit dated, but I just don't feel like all the hate it's been getting is fully deserved. So you can feel free to comment down below on it if you agree with me that it doesn't deserve all the hate it's getting, or if it is absolutely the worst thing ever. Feel free to put it in the comments down below. Now, the next thing I want to show you are some special boards and pieces. Before I get into that, though, I want to draw your attention to this insert. Because now normally I don't talk about inserts, but this is a very well done insert. There is a recessed place for everything. Even the board itself has a nice recessed place on top here, which then helps it to keep all of the pieces inside of it. And this is one of the nicest inserts I have actually seen in recent years. So I did feel like I wanted to draw a little bit of attention to that. Everything has a place. Now, this here is a special board that is used only when you're using the Merfolk faction, and there are a number of these special items that are used only when you're using certain factions. The next one is the Orc faction board, which you give one of these each to each player if the Orc faction is being used. After that, we have the Giants token. Now, the Giant token is two-sided. This is the side for 4 to 6 players. This is the side for 2 to 3 players, and this is used only if the Giant faction is being used. And finally, we have the Troll tokens. Now, there are quite a few of these little Troll tokens, but they each have a number on them and a picture of the Troll, and these are only used if the Troll faction is being used. Next, we have a bunch of these square cardboard chits here. Now, these are point chits. They are all the same on the other side. Here is the 2-point and a 10-point chit there. And now these are mixed up and placed randomly on the 3 spaces on the board. And then once they are flipped over, are organized in ascending order of point value to show you how many points each country will be worth for your game. And each country is worth different amounts of points for every game, because you always mix it up and change it up. How many points they are worth for each age of that game, I should say. Now, after that, we've got cards. And the first thing you've got in the cards is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 factions with a bland beige and gray background. And this is to differentiate from the nice blue background with the cover picture that is on all of the rest of the normal cards, so you don't accidentally mix them in. And then on the front, they all have plain gray borders. There is 1 card for each of the 12 factions that comes in the game, and you shuffle these up at the beginning, and after shuffling them up, you deal out 6 of the cards to decide which 6 factions you will be using in that game, or 5 factions if you're playing a 2-player game. So the factions of this game are the Merfolk, the Wingfolk, the Wizards, the Minotaurs or Minotaurs, the Troll, the Elf, the Centaur, the Dwarf faction, the Giants, the Halflings, the Orcs, and the Skeletons. So again, you shuffle those up and you deal out a 6 or 5, depending on how many players you're playing, and then you find the particular faction deck in with the regular decks of cards of those races. And as you can see here are 3 halflings. The normal cards have all different colors. So you have a red halfling there, a blue halfling, and an orange halfling. Here is a green halfling, and these are very important to how the game is actually played. In addition, there are 3 dragon cards. Now, the dragon cards look like the normal cards on the back for the normal decks, but have a dragon on the front, and they say dragon on them in case you didn't know it was a dragon. Now, the dragon cards are very important, and they are used in a mechanic that triggers the end of each age. Now, the final set of components that is in the box are the player tokens. Now, the player tokens are used for scoring points, for placing on special boards like the Orc board and the Merfolk board, and also for your area control in controlling the different areas, all the different nations on the board. Now, you have quite a few different colors. There is black, and let me just show you what these pieces look like. Each of the pieces looks identical to one another. They each have this kind of runic symbol on them there. There is black, white, green, pink, a light blue, and a yellow. Now, I do want to draw attention to something that I don't like about these. Now, they serve their purpose. One thing I do like about them, maybe I should start with the positive, is how stackable they are. They stack on top of each other, which is really great when you're doing your area control because you want to stack them. The thing I don't like is this is a very fantasy and medievalish feeling game, and these tokens, a lot of them have these neon colors and they don't feel like they fit with the game. I understand that they wanted to go with colors that were different than the colors on the board, which the colors on the board feel much more characterful for this game. But it feels to me like some of them, like the white and the black one and even the yellow one, are okay for this. But these three colors just, they feel a little weird to me on the board. I feel like they should have gone with a darker blue, a darker green, and some kind of red or maroon even for the colors. These neonish colors just feel like they don't fit. So that's all the components. Let's head over to the table and I'm going to show you how this game plays, and then we're going to come back, I'm going to review it, rate it, tell you how it feels, and we're going to get a second opinion from Len. Okay, so here we can see a game setup of Ethnos for a 4-player game. We are playing with the white player, black player, blue player, and yellow players. And for this setup, we had to do the following things. First, we had to randomly choose 6 factions to use. The factions that we chose are the Centaurs, Halflings, Minotaurs, Elves, Merfolk, and Windfolk. We shuffled all their faction decks together, and then we split them in half. The bottom half had the 3 dragons shuffled in and then put back on the bottom of the deck. As we move our way through the deck of cards, when the dragons come up, you put them aside and draw another card. When the 3rd dragon comes up, the age ends and we count up points. Now each player gets 1 card to start their hand with, and twice as many cards as the number of players are dealt out to the draw here, which can be drawn from, or you can draw a random card from the top of the deck. Now the only one of the factions that we chose to use that had a special piece was the Merfolk, and we put the Merfolk board out here, which required us each to have a control token on the 0 space, and we each put one of our control tokens on the 0 space of the main board as well. We also dealt out the chits and randomized them face down to each of the different countries, and then flipped them up and put them in ascending order for that country. And as you can see, some of the countries have far better amounts of points. For instance, red over here is doing very well, than certain other countries that are a little more lackluster, like this 224 over in orange over here. Now, on your turn, you have a choice of doing 2 different things. You can draw a card, or you can play a party. Now, when you draw a card, you either draw a card randomly from the top of the deck, or you draw one from the draw over here. And then when you play a party, you have to choose a number of cards that you want to play in the party that either have all the same color or are all the same faction. And you put them face up in front of you, 1 or more cards. A party can be a party of 1, and whatever color of the character that leads the faction should be on top, and that color allows you to play a control token in the corresponding country as long as you played a number of cards in the party that is more than the number of tokens you already have in that nation, which, since everyone starts with 0 out there to begin with, a 1-card party is enough to get your first control marker on the board. However, larger parties are worth larger amounts of points at the end of the game, and a 1-card party is worth 0 points. 2-card parties are worth 1, 3-card parties are worth 3, 4-card parties are worth 6, 5 are worth 10, and 6 are actually worth a grand total of 15 points. So there is sometimes an incentive to play more cards than you need because they will be worth more points. In addition, for getting points, at the end of each age, you get points based on what age it is and who has the most control tokens in each area. So if you have the most control tokens in red at the end of the first age, whoever has the most control tokens in the red nation here will get 6 points for the first age. Now, in the second age, whoever has the most control tokens gets 10 points, and whoever has second most gets 6. If there is a tie for first place between two players, you add the first and second place together and split the points evenly amongst the two players. At the end of the third age, whoever has the most gets the points for the third age, whoever has the second most gets the points for the second age, and whoever has the third most in this area will get the points for the first age. And you continue on like this for 3 ages and then count up the points. Now, before I show you a few rounds of how this plays, I just want to briefly give you a quick description of the special abilities of all the different factions, just so you know what kind of special abilities you might wind up with in your game of Ethnos. Now, the Centaurs, if you are able to play a control token on the board, allow you to immediately place another control token on a different territory on the board. The Dwarves, if you have a dwarf-led party, allows you to count that party as being one stronger when scoring it. Now, all of these, they have to lead the party to be able to get their ability. The Elves, depending on how many cards are in the elf-led party, that number is how many cards you do not have to discard after playing that party. The Giants, if you play the largest party of Giants currently on the board, you immediately get 2 points and get to take control of the Giant token, which is worth more points at the end of the age. The Halflings have no special ability per se. In fact, they have a disability. If your party is led by a halfling, you may not play a control token on the board, but as a counter effect, there are twice as many halflings as there are of most of the other factions, so that halflings are very easy to get large parties of. You can easily get a 6 halfling party and get those 15 points, which is very worthwhile. The merfolk, every time you play a merfolk-led party, the number of cards in the party allows you to move your merfolk scorer on the merfolk board. The merfolk board has age scoring just like any of the countries. 1 point for the first age, 2 points on the second age, and 4 points on the third. And in addition, they have symbols on the board that when you pass them, allow you to place a free control marker on the board. The Minotaurs have a special ability that when trying to place a control marker, you only have to have a party that is equal to or more than, not more than, to be able to place a control marker on the area you're trying to place. The Orcs give you an extra board that you get to place control markers on when you for each of the colors as you place a Orc-led party of that color on it, and they can be traded in for points at the end of any age, but they get exponentially more valuable the more control markers you have on it, so usually you want to save it for the end of the game. And the Skeletons are wild cards that you can place in any party regardless of whether you're trying to make a party of all the same faction or all the same color. You can always put Skeletons in it to try to get a control marker on the board, but they are removed before scoring, so never score you any points, and they may never lead their own party. Trolls allow you to, when you play them, earn tiebreaker tokens, so you don't have to share points with people if you tie for an area. Wingfolk, when you play a party led by Wingfolk, allow you to play in any nation, not just the color of the Wingfolk. And if you have Wizards, Wizards allow you to draw a number of cards equal to the number of cards you just discarded after playing your party. So those are all the abilities. Now let me just run you through a few turns. You can see how this game actually plays. So I'm going to start with White over here. It's White's turn to go first, and White is immediately going to play a one-person party of this merfolk here. They're going to play it in front of themselves over here, and that allows them to put one of their tokens in purple as they don't already have any tokens there. In addition, they get to move up 1 point on the merfolk board and now have the majority in the merfolk board just by a little bit. Then we move on to the black player. Now the black player decides to draw a card, and they're going to draw this orange halfling out from the draw there, and then they're going to be done. And then the blue player decides they are going to draw a card, so they're going to draw this green elf out from the area there. The yellow player decides to draw a card, and they're going to draw this red centaur. Now it's all the way back to the white player. The white player is going to draw a random card. Then the black player is going to draw the gray halfling there. Then the blue player is going to play a party of 2 green cards led by a wing folk in front of themselves, which allows them to play, since it's a wing folk, now it's green, they could play in the green area, but the wing folk special ability allows them to put it anywhere, and they decide they want to put their token in red. They had no extra cards to discard, so they just move on. Now it is the yellow player's turn, and they are going to play a red party led by a centaur. They are a party of 2. And now the centaur will allow them to put one of their tokens in red, and if they place a marker on the board, they can immediately place another band of allies from their hand, which actually they don't have anymore, so they aren't able to do that. So we're going to move back to the white player on the other side, and they're going to draw another random card. And then the black player is going to also draw another random card, and then the blue player is going to draw a random card, and the yellow player is also going to draw one of these blue minotaurs. So back to the white player, they're going to draw another random card here. To the black player is going to play a party of 3 halflings, which doesn't let them play on the board, but will earn them some points, and they have to discard the wing folk that they had in their hand. Then we move on to the green player, who is going to draw this orange centaur from the board, and the yellow player over here is going to draw this orange minotaur. Then, as you can see, these turns move very, very quickly. Then we go back to the white player over here. They're going to draw another random card. Then we're going to go to the black player over here, who just played out all their cards last turn, but they're going to take a random card. Then we're going to go to the blue player over here, who is going to play... who is going to draw, rather, the blue minotaur from the draw over there, and the yellow player is going to play a group of minotaurs led by a orange minotaur. Let me just show that to the camera there. A group of minotaurs led by an orange minotaur, so that they can place a control token in the orange nation there. Then, back over here at white, white is going to play a single party of a blue centaur, which allows them to play in blue and immediately play another party. So they're going to play a single party of an orange elf, which allows them to play in orange and allows them to hold on to one of the 2 cards in their hand. They're going to discard the other, which is a halfling. Then over to black is going to draw that green halfling that was just discarded, and then to blue, blue is going to play a 2-person party of centaurs led by a gray centaur, so that they can play in gray, and also it immediately allows them to play another party, and they're going to play a 1-person party of a minotaur that is blue, and that allows them to play in blue. And then it is yellow's turn, and they would just draw a card. And as you can see, this is how the game goes. You go around the table and you play cards, which allow you to play tokens on the board, and you keep going until the 3 dragons come up, at which point, when the 3rd dragon comes up, everyone stops immediately, they discard their hands, and they count up points. Now you get points again based on how many cards you've kept in front of you for the size of each of the parties that you have played, and you also get points for who has the most, and then in later rounds, the 2nd most and 3rd most tokens in any of the nations. And that's it. That's how you play Ethnos. At the end of the game, whoever has the highest point total wins the game of Ethnos. So let's head back downstairs, and I'm going to review this game, I'm going to rate it, I'm going to tell you how it feels, and we're going to get a second opinion from them. Okay, welcome back. So that was how you play a game of Ethnos. Now, I want to say that set collecting and area control are two mechanics that I really enjoy. And I feel like the way, mechanically, that this game put them together is fantastic. You've got the set collecting, which kind of feels like the classic game Rummy 500 or Rummy Cub, if you recall. And when you're playing a set, though, rather than just have that set be points, it actually gives you more of a reason to play it, because you play it and then that gives you the ability to play tokens for area control on the map, which, while there is no fighting, and yes, that does not seem to match the artwork at all, that there is no fighting, it is cool to try to keep track and watch as your stack is higher than your opponent's, and ooh, if it ends now, I'm gonna get the most points, and that can be really cool, and it can be a little nail biting as your opponents try to get a couple more tokens in that area and beat you out for the most points there. Plus, there's a lot of different ways to get points in this game. You've got the playing of large party sizes can get you lots of points. You have having the most people in an area that maybe can get you 8 or 10 points. That's a lot of points. You can also have lots of ways to get points from special abilities from some of the races. Having the most in a party led by dwarves will count as one larger, which when going from 5 to a 6 is 10 to 15 points just because it's led by dwarves. It's 5 more points. That's huge. The board that's on the side of the board for the merfolk can earn you more points and more plays onto the board. There's so many different ways to go about getting points. It feels incredibly dynamic, and the game also feels incredibly quick. The one thing on everyone's turn, just do one thing, either draw or play. And if you play, you discard your other cards, also means that you're never waiting, even on a large size game, even with 6 players, you are never waiting that long for your turn to come around. The number one thing I hear most often around the table when you're playing a game of Ethnos is, oh, is it my turn again already? Every time I play this game so far, that's what I hear most often. Oh, it's my turn? I didn't even realize it's my turn already? It's crazy how fast this game can flow. And I love that also. It's a really cool game. It's really fun. Is the theme pasted on? You bet your ass it is. This is a very abstract game that they just threw this fantasy battle theme on, and there's no fighting in it. There's no battling whatsoever. The one part of the theme that doesn't feel pasted on is the special abilities for the different races. The special abilities do fit with the themes of the different races, and that's the only part of the theme that I have to say doesn't feel like it's pasted on. Does the graphic design of the board feel outdated? Yeah, it kind of does, and that is the big thing that a lot of people complain about. It feels like a game from 15 years ago, maybe even older. Is it ugly? No, but yeah, it does feel a little bit outdated. But the gameplay, the mechanics are fun. I really, really enjoy it. I like this game. It's simple, it's fast, it's fun, it's a good medium weight game for you to play anytime and take less than an hour on a game night, or to help newer players who've already played introductory type games. This is the next step along the evolutionary ladder of gaming. You play your intro games, then you get to the medium weight games before maybe some way down the road you might introduce them to the heavier games. This is a great medium weight game for a next stepping stone for some players. So, for all these reasons, I like this game a lot, and I am able to overlook its shortcomings. It has those shortcomings, but it's such a good game that they really don't bother me. And for that reason, I give Ethnos 8 stars out of 10. But let's get a second opinion. Lynn, how many stars out of 10 would you give to Ethnos?
5.
So there you have a significant difference of opinion between Lynn and I on this. Now, 8 stars out of 10 means I love this game. I will always enjoy playing this game. I will play this game many times in the future. And I got to tell you, even though I've had this game only for a short amount of time, I've already played it half a dozen times, and I really enjoy it. Lynn, on the other hand, gave it a 5, which means meh. Doesn't really like it, doesn't really dislike it. She's somewhere in the middle on this game. And I talked to her about it, and I tried to ask, well, what is it that you don't like about it? Because I did want to share her opinion here, and she didn't want to be here for this review. So she said a big part of what makes her not love this game like I do is the randomness. There is a lot of randomness. There are the cards that are out there, but they disappear pretty quickly, and once they're gone, you're drawing just from the top of the deck, and those cards you get that are not the right color that you're looking for or not the right faction that you're looking for are just going to be discarded, which is something else that she does not like about this game. She doesn't like the mechanic of after you play a party, you have to discard the rest of your hand, which is why her favorite faction when she tried to play a lot was the elves, because they let her hold on to cards. So there you have it. 8 stars from me, 5 stars from Lynn for the game of Ethnos. So have you played Ethnos? Do you agree more with Lynn? Do you agree more with me? What do you think of the graphic design? Do you think it's really bad? Do you think it's like me? Do you think it's just, you know, a little outdated, but maybe not as bad as everybody makes it sound? Feel free to comment down below. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, either on the game of Ethnos or this video, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see me do more like it, please give me a like, share this video, and please subscribe to the Board Game Kaptain. That's Captain spelt with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.